Hello everyone, I'm Professor Plank. I respond to various theological and ideological questions and claims from a rationalistic and naturalistic approach in an effort to give and explain the opposite viewpoint and help to balance the conversation. Before we get into today's video, I want to start things off by giving a shout out to Scott Eisenberg, who generously provided me with my channel's first ever super thanks. So a big super thanks to you, Scott, for your support of me, my channel, and what I do here. I want to let you know that I appreciate your support immensely. So now on to today's video. This is Cassandra Vitica. Despite the fact that Cassandra seems to be a smaller YouTuber, she has a website that touts her as a motivational speaker for organizational success, as a sort of self-help guru, and an author who talks about how to achieve happiness in one's life. And some of her YouTube videos run towards the religious. And like oh so many other religious commentators, she decided recently to fire up her smartphone in portrait mode and give her thoughts on atheism while she was driving and should have been focused on the road instead. So let's see what musings on atheism came to her mind while traveling around the highways and byways. So take it away, Cassandra.
Once again, I'm having my deep thoughts as I drive to church. Maybe not super deep, but really it's more of an epiphany for me. And so this is why I share with you in the hopes that you might benefit from what I'm figuring out. I have several friends that are practicing Buddhists. And what finally just hit me, and I don't know why it took me this long because I've known this for decades. Buddhists don't claim a god. They did not think Buddha was a god. They did not believe in any god. They're essentially atheists. I never ever put the two words together.
Yes, this is true. Buddhists are one example of an atheistic religion. It's not the only one, but it is one of the most prominent. It's a common misconception of many people to think of atheism as an outright rejection of religion altogether, or disbelief in anything supernatural. And maybe this is part of the reason that theists so often get the definition of atheism wrong, by insisting that it means philosophical naturalism or materialism, or that being an atheist means you believe everything came from nothing, or it makes you an evolution proponent, or any number of other misconceptions of what an atheist actually is. It really shouldn't be that difficult to understand. Atheism is nothing more and nothing less than the not believing in any god or gods. So yes, that includes Buddhism, where Buddhists don't affirm or worship any god or gods. Now, being an atheist might make one more likely to gravitate towards other ideas and perspectives like materialism or acceptance of scientifically proven theories like evolution, but they're not part and parcel of atheism. So, yeah, Buddhists are technically atheists, so well done, Cassandra.
I don't know why. It just hit me this morning. Buddhists don't believe in God. They don't believe there's one transcendent being. They kind of believe that we're all one. Everything's, energy, and we're all part of that energy. And so your goal is to become at one with all the energy.
That is a gross oversimplification there. And considering by your own admission that you have several friends who are practicing Buddhists, one would expect you to have a slightly better handle on it. I mean, no one expects you to understand it entirely, but for the sake of your friends who believe in it, you should have at least a working knowledge of it, especially if you intend to talk about it and then put that video online. But kinda, sorta, yeah. Buddhists believe in practices that are held to move one towards a state of nirvana, where they can extinguish the three fires of greed, ignorance, and aversion, and attain enlightenment. And they don't hold to any kind of God or supreme being as being needed for this to occur. Its central figure, Gautama Buddha, was seen as an enlightened teacher, not a deity.
And that's therefore to become completely detached from everything. So murder and rape, abortion, all those things don't matter at all in the end.
Whoa, back it up.
Beep, beep, beep. Whoa. Slow your roll, Cassandra. Buddhists don't care about murder and rape. They think those things don't matter? I hope your Buddhist friends don't see this video, else they won't be likely to be your friends for very long. Because, no, not correct at all. Buddhism has, as part of its central core of tenets, what are called the 5 precepts that all Buddhists must adhere to. Among those are precept number 1, to abstain from onslaught on breathing beings, which prohibits killing. And then precept number 3 is to abstain from misconduct concerning sense pleasure, which would include not raping. They also include precept number 2 to abstain from taking what is not given, so that would be stealing. Precept number 4 to abstain from false speech, so don't lie. And precept number 5 to abstain from alcoholic drink or drugs. Now, I am not a Buddhist, nor do I have much experience or knowledge of Buddhism. But I found all of this in about 5 seconds worth of research. And even before I did that, I was aware that Buddhists tend to be peace advocates and nonviolent. So where you came up with the idea that Buddhists don't have a problem with murder or I have absolutely no idea.
And that's why I think it's attractive for so many people, because there's no judgment, because you're detached from everything. So everything that you've done bad in your life never gets judged, because the idea is you detach from it. There's karmic, there's energy consequences, but there is no heaven, there is no hell, so it doesn't ultimately matter.
I feel a bit out of pocket here, having to defend Buddhism when I'm not a Buddhist and I don't particularly believe in the religion. But you're just mischaracterizing it so badly and getting it so totally wrong. Buddhists do believe in an afterlife. They believe in a cycle of rebirth and reincarnation in which they have the opportunity to grow and change and better themselves in each one of their lives in their journey towards nirvana. And when they reach that state of spiritual enlightenment, their cycle of rebirth ends, and they achieve essentially spiritual perfection, so to speak. And that would be their idea of heaven. Committing bad acts that go against their faith, like breaking the aforementioned precepts, would move them further away from nirvana and hinder their spiritual journey. So they absolutely do believe in consequences for their actions, and that doing bad things will have lasting ramifications for their spirits. So just know, Cassandra, you couldn't be more wrong about everything that you're saying.
Here's what I realized in thinking about this. One friend of mine in particular who has kind of asked me a lot of questions about Jesus over the years, even though she's still a practicing Buddhist and still, I think, sort of kind of believes in Jesus. Any case, what hit me was, Jesus was never about telling people you couldn't practice other disciplines.
Yeah, he was. I mean, depending on what you mean by practicing other disciplines. But we're talking about religion here, so we mean spiritual disciplines. And if that spiritual discipline is saying that there is no supreme being, or that the morality you follow is more important than the figure you follow, Jesus was absolutely prohibiting all of that. I mean, this notion predates Jesus, actually, quite a bit, all the way back to the 10 Commandments, where number 1 with a bullet was, I am the Lord thy God, you shall have no other gods before me. Also included in that commandment was not to create any graven images like this one here. This was viewed as more important than those later, less crucial commandments, like, not killing or not stealing. I mean, those are bad, but following anything or anyone that was not the Christian God was the ultimate no-no. And then, when Jesus came along, he continued this thought with what was articulated in John 4:16. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So, very much continuing with the idea that following the proper religion was of paramount importance. So let's not act like the Christian faith allows one to practice other faiths in addition to it.
And here's the deal. You then get to inherit my eternal kingdom called heaven, this is what we call heaven, if you are not going to be with me the way that Yehovah describes that eternity without him, it's an eternity in hell. Hell, those of us who understand it, those of us who've had pretty clear glimpses of what hell has looked like. And I know, I've been to hell in this time frame.
You're saying you've been to hell? Are you from the Kat Kerr School of Evangelizing?
Hell itself, yes, is actually in the center of the earth. It also is a spiritual realm where when you die, if the enemy owns you, he takes you there.
You two do look quite a bit alike now that I think about it. Same hairstyle, same way of speaking. And your names are both starting with K. I'm getting a very particular vibe from the both of you. Not sure what it is. It's almost like you're demanding to speak to the universe's manager or something.
Hell is a place where there is no hope. There is no peace. There is no joy. There is no comfort. Nothing good and wholesome and pure and righteous exists. It's the glimpses of the world we've seen here. We see in this world, in this day and age, hell all day long. Imagine an eternity only immersed in this, the ugly, the painful, the awful, the depressive, the violent. That's hell forever. There is no hope that it will change one day, that we can be better people, that the good in humanity will triumph. No, hell is being separated from that.
I'm hearing a lot of assertions, but nothing in the way of convincing evidence or argumentation as to why I or anyone else should believe in hell. Not only do many faiths not include a hell in the way that you or Kat Kerr are describing it, but even other Abrahamic religions don't believe in hell, such as Judaism, which is the progenitor of your Christian faith. So you can't even get your own fellow theists on board with your idea of hell. But then also, your idea of hell doesn't comport with your own explanation of it. I mean, you just explained hell as being on earth, as being the kind of suffering and iniquity that happens in life on this planet. Well, one of the inextricable realities of worldly suffering is that it is finite. It ends. Everything in this world ends. Every experience, every occurrence, every actuality, it all comes to an end at some point. So how can you extrapolate from that and insist that hell is just like that, just like all of that worldly suffering? Except it's not, because it goes on forever. If it goes on forever, then it is most certainly not like the suffering of this world. And to further the point, why should we believe that such a thing as a spiritual place of eternal torment exists in the first place? You went on and on about the nature of hell, but provided nothing in the way of reasons to believe in it. I mean, I could go on and on about the nature of Middle Earth, but that doesn't mean you should believe in it. I mean, even though you haven't said it, I have to think that the only reason you believe in a place called hell, with all of the properties that you've mentioned, is because it talks about it in the Bible, and then is expanded upon in your Christian faith. And as far as it being declared in the Bible...
So, I suppose, if you don't believe there's a God, and you don't believe any of it matters, then it doesn't matter to you. And so, there you have it.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
So, here it is. This is the crux of your video. Atheists don't believe in God, don't believe in heaven and hell, and so don't believe that anything matters at all. Because if there's no eternal punishment for misdeeds, then there's no reason at all to not commit whatever terrible deeds one can conceive of. How many times have we responded to this little notion from theists? Look, Cassandra, atheism is not synonymous with nihilism. It is not a common atheistic position that nothing matters. It is not a common atheistic position to have no moral or ethical framework. Atheists do not regularly go out raping and killing because they think there are no consequences. In fact, atheists are the least likely philosophical group to go to prison, accounting for only 0.1% of the federal prison population in the United States. In addition to that, atheists have the lowest divorce rate of any philosophical group as well. Atheists just are not this amoral group of reprobates running around doing any horrible thing that pops into their head that you want to paint them as, because they don't have this sword of Damocles called hell hanging over their head to keep them on the straight and narrow. Secular morality, or for the Buddhists, non-theistic morality, does exist. And I dare say tends to work quite a bit better than a morality that is based around the idea of do what you're told or get punished with eternal damnation does. I mean, if the statistics are to be believed and all. Remember, we saw that atheists make up less than 1% of the prison population. What percentage do you think are made up of by followers of Abrahamic religions? Well, that amounts for about 80% of the American prison population. Theists have been trying to advance this idea that not having a religious affiliation to inspire one towards decency will inevitably lead to nihilistic hedonism and socially harmful behavior for a long, long time. And it just is not bore out by the facts. Since Christians are so often fans of drawing analogies between their views of reward and punishment in the afterlife to crime and punishment in the legal system, let me try to do the same. Much like it has been determined that the death penalty is not an effective deterrent to crime, it turns out that fear of hell is not a working deterrent to believers committing what they would determine as sinful acts. So, no, Cassandra, neither Buddhists or atheists in general are going around murdering and raping en masse at all, let alone doing so out of a belief that nothing matters.
So, it's not a you're gonna burn in hell, you're a bad person. It's not that.
Really? Because that seems to be what you've been grinding at this whole time. That if you don't believe in God or Jesus, then you don't think anything matters, and you're just going to go around raping and killing. And then you're going to go to hell for all eternity. I mean, has that not been the thesis of this entire video to this point?
So, I guess if you're a practicing Buddhist, I really do respect greatly the practice of detachment from all things of this world, because it's essentially the book of Ecclesiastes.
Wait, hold up a minute. Are you not going to finish that prior thought you had? I mean, you said it wasn't that we atheists are going to hell because we're bad people. So then, what is it? Why are we going to hell in your eyes? Why are the Buddhists going to hell? I mean, you said earlier that Buddhists and atheists in general don't think anything matters and are out here raping and murdering all the time, being horrible people and not believing in Jesus or the Christian God, and so that's why we're going to hell. For being nihilistic, non-believing rapists and murderers, right? For being horrible people in your eyes. Even though we do those things at a much lower rate than people of your ilk.
I don't know. This really wasn't about Buddhists. I'm not trying to diss on y'all. It just finally hit me that you're atheists. And anybody who doesn't believe in a God, I'm sorry for. I'm sad for.
Between the gross misrepresentation of what Buddhists believe and don't believe, the assertion of them as not caring about anything, and the claim that they, like all atheists, are going to burn in hell for all eternity, I think this was an attempt to diss on them all. But I do agree that this wasn't about Buddhism specifically. This was all really a roundabout way on ragging on atheism in general. You just focused your ire on one arm of atheism, that of Buddhists. But as I keep saying to theists who make similar statements, there's no need to feel sorry for me or other atheists just because we don't believe in God. I mean, I can only speak for myself, obviously, but I'm in a much better place mentally and emotionally than I ever was during the majority of my life when I did believe in the God that you believe in. I would say that I feel sad for you being locked into a restrictive and emotionally damaging belief system that causes you to think many of your fellow humans are condemned to eternal damnation, because such thoughts are and should be emotionally traumatizing. And anyone who believes that that is the truth and is not in some constant mental anguish over it is likely a sociopath. But having been on both sides of the proverbial aisle, I can recognize that there are aspects of your belief system that bring you comfort. What you need to understand is that not everyone is like you, Cassandra. Not everyone has this God-shaped hole in their heart that many theists assert can only be filled by God. You don't need to feel sad for me for being free from the very yoke that you yearn for. Not everyone wants it. Not everyone needs it. And some of us are monumentally better off without it.
Because it's impossible to experience abundance. You just experience detachment, and that's being dead inside. It's being dead.
You heard it here, folks. We atheists are dead inside. We feel only detachment. If you're an atheist who has kids, you don't actually love your kids. I mean, how could you? You're dead inside. You feel only detachment. Same with any other family, spouse, or friends. There's no real affection or attachment to any of them. Only detachment. Only dead inside for the atheists. And to let you know, Cassandra is a big pusher of happiness as well. Remember I said at the beginning that she was an author? Well, her self-help book is titled The Happiness Formula, which has as a main component of it faith in God as being instrumental to being happy and successful. So she would know that if you want health, wealth, and happiness, belief in God is essential, right? Oh, well, this is awkward. Looks like not so much. I mean, I hate having to keep bringing up all these pesky facts into the conversation, Cassandra, but they do seem to be against you on practically every point you've attempted to make. I mean, we've already gone over your horrible mischaracterization of Buddhism, atheists' lower propensity to commit crimes. Now we have secular nations ranking higher in the World Happiness Report. And another one, I know you haven't talked specifically about finances in this video, but in your book and your work as an organizational speaker, you do talk a lot about financial well-being and success and tie those things into needing faith in God as well. Well, that doesn't really pan out either, when atheists rank among the top 5 groups with the highest household incomes in the U.S. And while I don't know what your particular flavor of Christian is, unless you are an Episcopalian or a Presbyterian, your group is going to rank lower than atheists and agnostics on that particular metric. I mean, how much proof do I need to provide you with that everything you were saying about atheists is wrong? So that was Cassandra's final point in her video, that atheists are all dead inside. And like the entire rest of her video, it was utter and complete nonsense. Despite the fact that she claims to have practicing Buddhists as friends, she seems to know less about it than I came up with in a 5-second Google search. She thinks all atheists are nihilists, which of course is absurd. And she thinks that without believing in God, one is just doomed to being a raping, murdering, miserable, dead inside, pitiable person with no hope in life. All of which are shown to be completely untrue by just about every study on these subjects, as well as being a notion that can be easily dispelled by spending 5 minutes conversing with your average atheist. Something I tend to think Cassandra has never taken the time to do. And if she truly wanted to understand atheists a little better, that is what I would highly recommend to her that she should do. Actually talk to some atheists. It'd really open her eyes, I think. And so that's where we're going to close things off for today. So thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe so you'll always be notified when a new video comes out. Until next time, I'm Professor Plink, reminding you to keep striving for greater understanding. It's the best way to get wherever you want to go.